Welcome to the September 26, 2022 meeting of the school board meeting of West Clermont Local Schools. Mr. Romano, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Rudy.
Yes.
Mrs. Delaney.
Present.
Mr. Chumley.
Present.
Mr. Patton.
Present.
And Mrs. Brinkman let us know that she would be absent this evening.
Okay. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Looking for a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Mrs. Delaney, and seconded by Mr. Chumley. Any discussion? Okay, Mr. Romano?
Mrs. Delaney.
Yes.
Mr. Chumley.
Yes.
Mr. Patton.
Yes.
Mr. Rudy.
Yes.
4 yes.
Okay. Do we have any public commentary this evening?
We do not.
Okay, thank you. Then we are going to have recognition at this time, correct? Okay.
Good evening. We have a lot to celebrate tonight. Last week was a great week with our town hall and our alumni event. And that was a lot of things. I'm going off script a little bit, but I just wanted to mention that because we had a really, really big week. But we also have some schools and individuals that we want to recognize tonight. So I'm going to bring up Mr. Duell at this time to talk about our 3 elementaries that have won awards.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be able to bring 3 of our schools before you this evening to talk about their work with regards to how they are building school cultures that are welcoming for students and that address the different needs that they might have so that they can access and participate and make good growth at school. So this award that each of them has received through the state of Ohio is for their work in positive behavior interventions and supports. So our teams from Summerside Elementary, Willowville Elementary, and WT Elementary have all received a bronze level award this year for their work in PBIS. And I'm going to bring those teams up now to stand with me. And each of the principals from Summerside and WT are going to say a few words. And then Julie Howard is going to say a few words with regards to the work at Willowville, as she was pretty integral with that last year. We'll start with Lisa. Do you want to come first?
Good evening. I am thrilled to celebrate the hard work of our PBIS team at Summerside Elementary. Behind me are a few folks who really took the lead in that initiative. Ms. Cheryl Lowe, our assistant principal, really did own and assemble all of the dedicated work that it takes to even apply for this award. And it's really a reflective practice and a reflective process for our entire team. But Ms. Lowe really does deserve some kudos and some credit for taking that lead and for taking the initiative to continue to herald and highlight the work that our PBIS team has done over the last few years. Specifically, the other members that are standing behind me would be Ms. Rankin and Mrs. Morris. Ms. Rankin is an intervention specialist on the team, and Mrs. Morris is a first grade teacher on the team. We also had representation from all of the grade levels and certainly all of the different areas within our building. And that process, again, is reflective. It continues to also refine our practices, and it's just an incredible opportunity for us to say thank you to the lead of our building for the PBIS work that they do, and to our entire staff in our building for all of the work that they continue to embrace and guide our students with as we not only focus on what the expectations are, but also on how to recognize and celebrate when those expectations are met. So we're very proud of this bronze award, and we're really excited about the work ahead too. Thank you, team. Thank you.
Next, we have Sue Hall. Next, we have Sue Hall from WT Elementary.
Hi, good evening. We're so embarrassed, but it's truly a team effort. We are excited about this recognition, and I just want to share 3 highlights that really just reflect WT and the hard work. If you did not know, in 2018-19 is really where this work really began. We focused on knowing our why and our relationships with students. We actually implemented morning meeting before we actually had the Caring School community curriculum. So we focus as a team. Many of them are a part of that work. What I can share with you is I actually checked in with a 4th grader that year, and excuse me if I get a little emotional, but I said, how's morning meeting going? And he said, Mrs. Hall, everybody knows my name in my class. And if you let that sink in to an 8 and 9-year-old, they are seen and they are heard. And that's what morning meeting is about, that we check in with every single one of our students each and every day. I can, attest with the team behind me that I'm so proud of, and some members that are not with us, that this recognition is more than just a rubric that Mrs. Courtney talked about. It is about what we do and practice and believe in each and every day, that we seek the good in our students and with one another. We are proud Bobcats, and we are proud Wolves that our students can express, and I am just the absolute honor to be the proud principal of this team, because it truly is a team effort, and we look forward to, like Ms. Courtney said, with the work ahead. So we're proud to have a bronze award in this recognition.
Mrs. Hall. Hey, Mrs. Hall. Could you tell us, have everybody introduce themselves? I don't know all of them. I used to know everybody, but not anymore.
Yes. And I would say how long you've been at WT. Go ahead. Please do.
Okay, hi, I'm Megan Patterson. I've been at WT for 5 years.
Hi, I'm Amy Sweeney, and I've been at WT for 33 years.
Hi, I'm Tracy Welp, and I've been at WT for 23 years.
Hello, I'm Millie Walsh, and I've been at WT for 26 years.
Hi, I'm Mary Wright. I've been at WT for 30 years.
I'm Jen Bottoms. I've been here for 8 years.
Hi, I'm Gail Borchers. I've been at WT for 25 years.
Hi, I'm Tanya Swami, and I'm beginning my 7th at WT.
I am Kelly Beatty, and I've been at WT for 21 years.
Kathy Hott, and I've been at WT for 8 years, but my kids went to school before that, so a really long time.
Angel Westerkamp, my first year of many.
I'm Ann Beer, and I've been here for 20 years.
I'm Roanna Blackham. I've been at WT for 18 years and West Clermont for 26.
Mary Ellen Robinson. I've been at WT for 5 years.
Hi, Jody Davis, WT for 6 years.
Thank you very much.
So our last school is Willowville. Unfortunately, Mr. Jones couldn't be with us here this evening, but we are fortunate enough to have Ms. Howard, who has been very involved with the team throughout this process.
Thank you. I was the assistant principal at Willowville last year. This year I'm at Merwin. But I'm just thrilled to be able to tell you all a little bit about Willowville's PBIS team from last year. To say that they were student-centered is like to say the least. These people came into every meeting open-minded, ready to problem solve, talk about what's going on within the school and with specific children. There were tears shed. There were times when we really faced some tough problems, and these teachers had very creative solutions for our kids last year.
Some great things that we worked on when we were working through this application process were our schedule for teaching and reteaching of our PBIS lessons from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. We actually had a group of 5th graders who led the reteaching process during our lunch periods, and that was just like a big highlight for our year. They did such a great job showing their leadership skills with that. We also worked on our schedule for reinforcing positive behavior. We did that through our monthly experiences. We had things going on like a ninja obstacle course. We also had things like a snowy truck come in, so just some great opportunities for kids to spend their warrior bucks in fun ways. Our team was just fantastic about having those data-driven discussions, and we were so lucky to have that team together at Willowville, and I know that they're doing great things again this year.
So to summarize, the work that we're honoring here today is really the school-wide level of positive behavior interventions and supports that, again, make school accessible and meaningful for students to engage. The state recognizes that school-wide level of work with their Bronze Award. As we continue to hone our small group and individual intervention processes for students, I'm very hopeful that we'll apply for some of the silver and gold level awards and be back here next year to be able to present some of that work to you as well. So, thank you.
Good evening. I am so excited to introduce to you two amazing teachers from Merwin. From my very short time at Merwin, they have become just such a pleasure to work with, and they both are getting recognized in 2 different ways today. So if I can bring up Paula Blatt first, one of our amazing 1st grade teachers. As you all know, you approved her a retirement at the last board meeting. So a family nominated Miss Blatt to be Educator of the Week for Channel 12 News, and so it was broadcasted on last Monday, I believe. And so the students were so excited to be part of that, and I think Mr. Chumley has a son in that classroom as well, correct?
He watched that video like 30 times.
Yes, it's only like 13 seconds long, but it's like amazing. In that video, Mrs. Blatt says that educators wear many hats. And boy, do you see that in her 1st grade classroom every day. She is so amazing at making sure all their needs are met, but even beyond that, those kids leave there being readers and mathematicians at an early age. So I'm just so proud of the work she does. She was nominated by a family who has had, how many other children have you had? Yeah, so 4 of the 7 children of this family, the family that nominated her, so they know Miss Blatt very well. And we were able, as a staff, to recognize Miss Blatt this Friday in our Merwin Homecoming Parade float because she was our homecoming queen, along with the other retirees. She forgot her tiara today, but I told her she could wear this at any staff meetings or any conferences she wants for the rest of the year. But we are just so blessed by having Miss Blatt at Merwin. Thanks, Miss Blatt. The next amazing teacher I'd like to highlight is Miss Kim Reese. So Kim, if you want to come up. Kim is no stranger to West Clermont or to the teachers probably all sitting behind us. She is what I would call a plate-spinning teacher. I have never in my life seen somebody put on so many hats and spin so many plates all at one time. Just to name a few, like the Science Nature Club, Student Council, continuing her education through the Xavier program right now, supporting district teachers through WCEA. She's just amazing. And like above all, she's an amazing fourth grade math and science teacher. But recently, she was awarded the Educator of the Year by Clermont Soil and Water Conservation District. So she took part in a ceremony at the Cincinnati Nature Center just recently. and was recognized for her work that she's doing in those areas, but primarily she has created and worked with another educator on a grant to get compost bins at our school and to work with the Cincinnati Nature Center to plant native plants in our gardens. She was so funny. I think it was just last week she came in, she goes, "Oh my gosh, it's so cool. The worms are here and we're putting worms." I was like, "Oh my gosh, she's talking about worms in the office, please." But she was so excited and she was like getting the kids' hands all dirty because they were putting worms in the compost bin, I'm assuming. It's the food for the worms. Okay, thank you. They weren't like released into the wild in our hallways, but she is just so excited about learning, and her excitement for learning just spreads throughout the building. And so I'm just so honored to recognize her tonight for this award.
It's been a banner year, month actually for our West Clermont family here. If you think about it, we had Mrs. Adams on the first day of school. We had Mrs. Emery on, thank you, and then Mrs. Blatt, and then all these different things that are happening within our community and of teachers with 3 awards for PBIS. This is only the first 6 weeks of school. We have so much positive things that we can celebrate. It's kind of the highlight of the meeting, no offense, that we get to celebrate our staff, our students, and our families here tonight. So thank you to everyone being here tonight. I know PBIS takes a lot of time, a lot of effort and dedication to get the awards that you get. So we appreciate all you do for our students.
And we are not offended if you want to go home. I know you've got schoolwork to do and get up early, or you can stay. Thank you all. Okay, so moving on to the consent agenda, 5.01 personnel.
Good evening, members of the board, Mr. Overby and Mr. Romano. In front of you is the personnel agenda for September 26, 2022. On the agenda today, we have the retirement of 2 teachers, Patricia LeMaster, teacher at Merwin for 32 years. This is at the end of the year. And Carla Decker, teacher at the high school for 26 years. We have the resignations of 1 teacher, 1 health clinic assistant, 1 custodian, 2 cafeteria workers, 2 paraprofessional aides, 1 middle school coach. On this agenda, we have the proposed hiring of 2 teachers to fill current vacancies, 1 custodian, 1 van driver, 2 part-time paraprofessional aides. We're also happy when our teachers work to grow themselves professionally. We have the proposed approval for the adjustment of salary placement for 1 teacher due to their continued professional growth through college coursework. On this agenda, we have the proposed approval of supplemental contracts for multiple teacher leaders, multiple coaches. Included in this agenda is proposed approval for requested unpaid leaves of absence, the hiring of classified substitutes, and multiple school volunteers and student teachers. Finally, in the work beyond the contract section, included in this agenda are proposed approval for payments for those individuals who have participated in the Student-Centered Learning Ecosystem Fellowship, Health Clinic Assistant providing support during homecoming dance, MTSS instructional leaders, Hope Squad leaders, Link Crew leaders, marching band, staff support, additional preparation time allocated to teachers through the collective bargaining agreement due to having to move their classrooms right before school started. This concludes the review of the personnel agenda submission for your consideration.
Thank you. We don't, do we vote?
Nope, we keep going.
Okay.
It's consent
I just
agenda.
wanted to give a plug to Miss Decker. She's a good friend of mine, and I don't think she's gonna like retirement. She tells me she will, but she loves school, loves being in there with her pianos. She's been a wonderful asset to West Clermont. Okay, and I do not know Miss LeMaster. Ms. LeMaster? Do any of you know her? No. But
Patricia Brenner, she's in Merwin for many years.
oh, okay.
At Merwin, and she was a fine.
Okay. Now I know who you're talking about, yeah. I wish her a happy retirement too. I hope they both like it better than I did. Didn't like it.
I'll
monkeys. Okay, next we have approval of minutes.
Item 5.02 and 5.03 is request for approval of the minutes. The first one is for the meeting that took place on August 29th. The second request is approval for the September 12th, 2002 work session meeting. Item 5.04 is list of donations, and I'll briefly run through those. Stephanie Mahaffey donated 7 fluorescent vests for outdoor duties at Merwin. Marty Greger donated school supplies at Withamsville Tabasco Elementary. Legendary Run Ladies Golf League donated 27 backpacks with school supplies for students in need. West Clermont High School class of 2022 donated $4,305 to the class of 2024. The high school class of 2021 donated $6,724.46 to the class of 2025. And the high school class of 2020 donated $2,137.50 to the class of 2026. Those donations kind of repeat themselves, so as the classes kind of graduate out, they do take care of the incoming class that comes in. The Cincinnati Reds Community Fund, as part of the Reds Fund at Bat program, donated $500 to Withamsville Tabasco Elementary, $500 to Willowville Elementary, and $500 to Holly Hill Elementary. Those are for the purchase of supplies and equipment for the physical education classes. West Clermont High School Yearbook donated $1,500 to West Clermont High School Link Crew Program. Adams Company, Inc. donated $750 to the district for the town hall participant giveaways. And Kemba Realty donated $235 to support students' lunch fees.
So what is that for? The students that can't afford lunch, or?
Yes.
Oh, very nice.
Okay, do that. Item 5.05 are the contracts. And again, I'm going to explain 2 sections of contracts. 5.05 are contracts that are kind of specific because they're either larger in nature or they're recurring. This is for our cybersecurity insurance. As you recall, last year was the first year that we purchased that. That was, again, put up for quote this year. There was an increase with that. We did go with Travelers. Their proposal was slightly more than the second one, but the terms of that proposal were better as far as the deduction or the amount that we would have to pay. So we did go with Travelers on it. You'll also see later on that in the financial section with the financial statements, as we started back in July, that as we do contract and purchase services, we do list those out, that as we have the requisitions turned into purchase orders with contract services, we are listing those out specifically as we go forward each month with that. Item 5.06 is request for approval of purpose and budget statements for this fiscal year. As you'll note, those are the activities that are listed below within that. Those will come again probably every month. Those are for the student activity managed programs and the student activity where the students manage them versus the administration manages those programs. The item 5.07 is the financial statements, bill paid list, and investments for the month of August. And there's several other documents that are included in there. There was a different format report on our FTEs this month. That has to do with a position control budget that we started to institute for the beginning of this fiscal year. I'll talk a little bit more about that later on when I talk about the annual appropriation measure. So the request on the consent agenda is from items 5.01 through items 5.07. Any questions on any of those items?
Okay, you're looking for a motion to approve that consent agenda items? We've already done that, haven't we?
Consent agenda.
so I don't have to vote now.
You have to,
Yeah, yeah, with the vote.
So moved.
Okay, and a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Patton?
Okay.
Any discussion? Okay.
Mrs. Delaney?
Yes.
Mr. Patton?
Yes.
Mr. Rudy?
Yes.
Mr. Chumley?
Yes.
4 yes. Thank you.
Okay, on to superintendent's business. State report card presentation.
Yes.
Mrs. Preston?
Good evening. So while we're waiting for the there it is. All of this information has been shared with you in the last 2 board updates. So you may or may not have had an opportunity to review it. But this is just kind of hitting the highlights of some of that information and an opportunity for you to ask any questions that you may have. So one thing to note, this is the first time that we've had a graded report card since 2018. So as we know, since then, there have been quite a few, there have been quite a few things that have happened since 2018. So this, from our perspective, we're kind of considering this our new baseline. Since 2018, the rating system, how districts are measured, has changed. If you remember in the past, you may have remembered letter grades. The letter grades are now gone, and they've been replaced by stars. And how the components are calculated has also changed. So there are lots of new things that are, factors for us, which makes it really difficult in some cases to compare even to the past, given that so many things are new. And so like I said, that's kind of why we're considering this like a new baseline year for us. There are lots of things that we're really proud of that we want to celebrate. And then obviously there are areas for us to continue to strengthen and to continue the forward progress and momentum that we have in those areas. So the state report card, maybe. There we go. The state report card currently there are 5 categories that were included this year. The first category is achievement, and achievement is looking at the performance of all students across all tested subject areas, beginning in 3rd grade through the high school and of course exams. Our overall performance index score this year was 80.5, which is almost 4 points higher than last year. And our percentage, performance index percentage, is 75.1%, which is the highest we've had since the OSTs began in 2015. And so this, really indicates that our achievement is on the rise and that things are continuing to trend in the right direction. We're not quite yet where we want to end, but we're definitely seeing the results of the efforts that our teachers are putting in. The second component rating is called the progress indicator, the progress component. And you may have heard of a measure called value added. This progress component is based off of our district's value added score. And so what value added looks like, it begins in 4th grade, and there's like a super complicated metric that I'm not smart enough to be able to explain in great detail. But essentially what happens is students are kind of put into groups, and they're put into groups based on their past testing history. So beginning in 3rd grade, any test that students take, whether it's in English language arts or math, it sort of establishes a prediction in a certain way about where they believe, based on their past history, where they may be predicted to perform in the future. And so it looks at, essentially for students to have met their progress goals, they need to kind of maintain their standing in the distribution of all scores across the state of Ohio. And if they move up in that ranking, then they're considered to have exceeded growth expectations. If they end up lower than that past ranking, they're considered to have not met their expected growth standards. And so really this is about wanting to not only meet proficiency goals, but wanting to exceed those goals for all students. And so you'll see here, green represents about a year's worth of growth. And again, it kind of goes off of a gain index where like a 0 represents a year's worth of growth. Anything that has like that's one standard error above that is considered like more than a year's worth of growth with moderate evidence. Anything beyond, like between 1 and 2 and above, is considered significant evidence that you've exceeded growth expectations. And then the reverse is true, like negative from 0 to -1 or from -1 to -2 and beyond. And so we have some really great things to celebrate with progress. And then clearly just by looking at colors, you can see that we have some areas to improve as well. Some of our highlights, as it relates to progress, our overall district progress score represents the most, the highest progress we've seen since the testing began. So it's the best progress, or the least amount, the least loss, I suppose we could say, than we've had in the past. And a few measures to highlight in algebra, and this includes 8th grade students who took algebra as well as high school students who took algebra. Their gain index was 9.45, and so if you think that 0 represents a year's worth of growth, their gain was more than 9 standard errors above that, and that places them, in quite good company. That really represents some of the highest value-added scores across the entire state for that. Our composite index, so the total of all of our tests, is an improvement for us over the past 5 years. And as it relates to the high schools specifically, the high schools index was 8.35 across all tested areas, which is higher than 95% of all schools across the state. So, like I said, we have some real areas to celebrate there, and our area that we need to continue to strengthen is mostly at our middle school, and we're confident that the supports that we've put in place and the continuous improvement efforts that we have underway will pay off. The next component measure is graduation rate. This measure includes both the 4- and 5-year graduation rate. The 4-year graduation rate is 60% of the overall score, and the 5-year rate is 40% of the overall score. So our component rating together, which is uses the 91% at 60% of the measure and the 94 at 40%, our overall component rating is 92.2%, and our 5-year graduation rate of 94% is the highest that we've seen, that we've had. So there's a lot to celebrate there. We want to continue to get, to work towards 100% graduation rate for sure, but we're well above and exceeding the state of Ohio, and we're really proud of this being the highest that our 5-year rate being the highest that we've seen. Early literacy, that's another one of those complicated measures similar to value added, our progress measure, that has 3 components that end up making this composite score. It looks at 3rd grade proficiency, so the percentage of students who were proficient on the spring 3rd grade state test. It looks at those students who were promoted to 4th grade, and students can be promoted to 4th grade for having met the promotion score, which is slightly less than the proficiency score, which is why there are sort of 2 different components of that indicator. And then there are other ways that a student may also meet that promotional score. And then the 3rd component is what's called improving K-3 literacy. And that looks at the percentage of students that were able to move from off track to on track. So beginning in kindergarten, students are given a diagnostic assessment. And those students who are considered off track, the following fall, when they're first graders in the fall, they're given a diagnostic again, and we're looking at the change between those who are off track in the fall of kindergarten to those who are off track in the fall of first grade. And that continues from first to second, from second to third, and in third grade, it looks at their third grade fall diagnostic to their third grade state test that spring. And so that's that last component measure there. So when you think about that, our data in this spring's report card includes data from the 2021 school year as well as the 21-22 school year. And so we're looking at data that is right off of the tail of COVID and other challenges that we know have been presented over the last few years for us. So this is an area that we're continuing to work to support. Even with that being said, our component score, so the combination of those measures together, that 66.2%, is higher than in past years. So even given challenges that we've had, we're happy to say that things are moving in the right direction. And we were less than 2 percentage points off of moving up another component rating, so like that close to 3 stars. So we believe we're trending in the right direction. And it's interesting, this next slide looks at early literacy statewide trends, beginning with the 2018 school year through the end of last spring. And so you can see that across the entire state, as you look from kindergarten to first, first to second, second to third, third to third, that every single year across the entire state there has been a decline. And so the challenges that we face with early literacy, we're in good company. Across the entire state, these are challenges. And if you were to pay attention to some legislation that's been happening over the last couple of years at the state level, there is new dyslexia legislation that's really, Dr. Storr talks about, it's really legislating best practices, where it's really designed to equip through professional learning and through access to high quality instruction and screening tools, ways to ensure that all students have an opportunity to develop really strong literacy skills. And so we're proud of the work that we've done, and we're really looking forward to, now that we are fully back in school, we're not wearing masks and all the things that make learning to read extra challenging. We're really excited to see what we're going to be able to do. The next measure is called gap closing, and what this looks at are subgroups of students and how the performance of subgroups, whether they're meeting each of their subgroup goals. Federal law mandates this be included as a measure in report cards, and the federal law establishes what those goals are each year. And so examples of subgroups are, Pacific Islander, white students, students with disabilities, English learners, etc. And so each of those subgroups has a unique goal for ELA and for math. And so this was really a relative area of strength for us, where students met or exceeded their goals, with the exception of just a few areas. Students with disabilities being one of those, English learners in math, they exceeded their goal in literacy, etc. So we're proud that when we say success for all students, like we are meaning all, that we're really mindful of working to ensure that we're closing gaps for all students. So this chart just represents kind of our relative placement as a district across the state in relation to the percentages of districts that fell in various categories. And so you can just kind of see, how our performance kind of stacked up against others in this visual way. So as I said at the beginning, we're really proud to not only continue the efforts that we've had underway for the last few years, even through COVID, we never stopped. And we're proud to really enhance those improvement efforts. And so I'll just highlight a few of those. Dr. Storr and Mrs. Lawson, they work to support their elementary and secondary teams through many things. One of those is through the building's continuous improvement plans, and really ensuring that our buildings have plans that are aligned with our district's theory of action, that they're really designing purposeful moves and really measuring the impact of those efforts on a monthly basis. And connected to that, we've been working to enhance our data visualization. One of the things that I think sometimes, not just school districts, but lots of people, you may have heard a phrase where you could be data rich but information poor, where you have access to lots of information, but none of it is super actionable, or it's difficult. You have to look at line after line and spreadsheet after spreadsheet. And so we've been working this year to help make that data more actionable for teachers and for building administrators. And so we've been working to create some data dashboards, whether it's an attendance dashboard where we're very quickly able to see students who are chronically absent, to a grade distribution dashboard, to dashboards that help us better see discipline incidents. We're really working to help people be able to have better information at their fingertips. And we're working for a second year with our instructional rounds, where every Wednesday district administrators come together to continue to build our understanding of instructional practices and ways that we can best provide feedback to teachers to help strengthen and support what's happening in the classroom every day. And a connected part of that, we're working to establish an instructional framework across the district that helps to name what some of those best practices may be, and to really help clearly articulate what our vision for teaching and learning is across each of our classrooms. So we're excited about that, and we'll have more information to share with you about the instructional framework specifically as time goes on this year. And then obviously, I mentioned the middle school earlier. We have made significant investments, not always things that cost money necessarily, but just resources, whether it's realigning some of the administrative supports, or working to just kind of try to uncover every rock that may be a rock in someone's shoe, to really set that place up for success for students. And so we're really we're excited about Dr. Ray and how she's brought that team together, and we know great things are in store at the middle school this year. So that's what I have. Any questions?
I'm hearing that wonderful things are already happening at the middle school.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Staff members are very happy.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
I think it's really encouraging to see that even though, we've had all the trials and tribulations over the last few years, that we've, and with all of the efforts that we've put in place and focused on, that we're able to, reap some benefit from it, and that, and to see that our efforts are not being lost.
Absolutely.
It's very, it's been a hard time for for everyone, for students, staff, parents, and this is, we're on the rise.
Absolutely. Okay, great.
And your literacy work has really
we're
being shown.
Yeah,
right?
we're getting there for sure.
Yeah.
Great. Thank
Very
you so
impressive.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's always good to hear good news.
Absolutely.
Well, as most of you know, that I am not Mrs. Adams. She's unable to be here today. For those of you who are watching at home, I'm Mike Overby. I'm the Chief Operating Officer in the district. And so I have a couple things to review with you over policies and then some comments. But first, I want to just give kudos. I've never seen, and this is lots of years for me, a teaching staff, an administrative staff, and a district office staff of teaching and learning work so hard and tirelessly to help our students find success. It is unbelievable, the time and effort and the innovation that comes from our team, the positive approach, and just the drive that they have to create a plan, work the plan, and then now to try to visualize those results. So thanks to teaching and learning and the building administrators and our teachers and staff as well. Well, moving on to policy, there are 34 policies that Mrs. Delaney and Mr. Patton and I reviewed along with Mr. Romano. I'm going to try to be brief and walk through these. Board policy 1617, 3217, 4217, and 7217 all deal with weapons. There was a spelling error, so anytime there is any change to board policy, it has to come in front of the board for approval. And then there was some required language that we had to put in there based on a high revised code. There was a policy around career advising. We removed a line about quantity of meetings. We didn't want to put us in a box that way. But then also, what this really ties to is our WC Your Future plan, where Mr. Gephardt and now Mr. Pottebon have always talked about everyone's going to have a plan on graduation. And that plan does not always need to be a 4-year, a 2-year college. It could be military, it could be apprenticeships, it could be credentialing and things like that. Well, all of that is listed now in this policy, proposed policy. And then it's also important to share, and it is now a proposal in policy to show all the ways that you can pay for college or apprenticeships, either through College Credit Plus or ROTC and things like that. So district-sponsored clubs and activities, 2430. There was a court case around religious apparel. So our policy based on that new Ohio Revised Code is students are allowed to wear religious apparel unless it poses a danger to participants. And we had some talk around what that is, and Mrs. Delaney has a lot of experience in soccer, so and that type of thing. If it is deemed to be dangerous for others, we have to make reasonable accommodations. So that was 2430, and then 2431 is the same as above, but then what we noticed is that in board policy, it's requesting, it is asking that you have to meet a GPA standard to be in a club or co-curricular, extracurricular activity. Well, that is not current practice. Mr. Gephardt and I have talked about that at the high school, so we're requesting to remove that GPA requirement. Clubs come in and out. It's not as what's the word I'm looking for? With athletics, you have to meet a certain requirement based on OHSAA and things like that. This is another way we're trying to engage students, and some students may come once or twice, they may come all the time, so it's just a matter of not being able to keep up with that. And then in 3120.08, there is a requirement now, or a proposed requirement, that if you do not have an educator license and you want to be receive a stipend from us or be an advisor for a club, no matter if that club is athletic or not, you're going to have the people activity permit to do that. Then there are 3 policies, 5111, 8320, and 8330. Essentially what that is going through is that there is a confidential, let me pull this up really quickly. I'm going to make sure I get this one right. Safe at home address confidentiality. Some of our students may be in a witness protection program, say, so that but the person who is enrolling them still has to provide a program authorization card. And so obviously that would be highly confidential, but that is now in state law. Health services, in 5335, it did not include all allergies. It was specific to peanut butter. So now that is something that we're doing that is all around all allergies. There's updates to the training and then updates to liability. In 6700, there is some language around accommodating nursing mothers during the day. In 7440, which is facility security, We're allowed to use those security measures to search for vape pens. As we all know, unfortunately, that has become almost an epidemic and with our youngsters, not only here in West Clermont, but pretty much anywhere in the country. So trying to help there. Drones, we're proposing that we change the language to allow for drones if the pilot is FAA certified and has permission of the superintendent or designee. Right now, technically, no one can fly a drone over our campuses, but for instance, our architects would use a drone to survey our roofs through thermal imaging, something that we would propose to do. I think there was a football game that was paused yesterday because of someone flying a drone within the stadium, so obviously we would, NFL game, so we'll definitely be aware of those type of things. And then transportation in 8600. It adds specificity to the 30-minute rule, and then we cannot make a change to a student's transportation if there's a charter private school outside once the year is started. That was a lot, sorry, but I want to make sure we get those. And then there's some housekeeping things in 1422, 1623, and some others that are around title changes. We're cleaning up, as Mrs. Delaney and we've talked about many times, taking away names and specific information and making them as general with titles. And then Mr. Parise has requested changes to 3281, 4281, and 5136.01. Essentially what it's boiling down to is we cannot connect our own devices to district-owned equipment. As Mr. Romano talked about with cybersecurity and the insurance that we're having, it's one more way that we're trying to keep our facility or our network safe for our students and staff. They can connect to our wireless, our public wireless network, but they cannot connect to the internal kind of guarded network there. So, and then 5771, we're recommending that we change from reasonable suspicion for the use of canines and go to more of an expansive policy there to allow a canine to search for explosives, drugs, and other devices. Obviously, that would be searching rooms and bags and things like that, but not the student themselves, cars and things. And then finally, 2 new policies. This is just cleaning up some things. We did not have a preschool policy, so 2280 would bring a preschool policy forward. And then 5460.01, again, we did not have this policy, but it talks about deferring a diploma for some of our students with disabilities. So that's the update. This is part of the Neola review that we do in the fall, but it's also some of the things that we have found as we are continuing to hone our policies as we move forward. Any questions on those? I won't go as long next time, I promise. But
Promises.
So, and then finally, superintendent comments or chief operating officer comments here. Want to recognize our West Clermont High School band. One, they sounded so fabulous on Friday night, but they just participated in the Band of America's competitions. 23 bands were invited, 12 advanced, and our band missed it by 0.65 points. So we were 13. But to be in that category and be invited to a competition like this is a huge, huge step for our band and Brian Fisher and the team over there. I've never seen, again, a group work so hard as our band does, pretty much day and night, it seems.
And they have 40 seniors graduating.
40, yes.
40.
Yes. But the pipeline is strong. I'm hearing it
Yeah.
from the middle school, the numbers are phenomenal.
Yeah, this was these are the seniors that when they came in, there were like 75 of them coming out of middle school that one year, so, yeah.
And then finally, I just want to recognize everyone's hard work over the last week. It's been a heck of a busy week for us and you all and our team. We started last week with a policy and operations meeting. We had Citizen Advisor Commission on Wednesday. We had 49 folks at our town hall meeting on Thursday night. Mr. Patton and I went to the UC Clermont 50th anniversary. Mr. Gephardt and his team led a wonderful alumni event where graduates of Amelia and Glen Estee, and also West Clermont received this awesome medal. What, hundreds, Randy, probably? 300 or so? 400 medals. Along with bringing back the bell, and many of you, some of you at the table tonight, we're there to ring that bell for the first time, as we know that's very important. The homecoming game was packed. That student section is amazing. I know I've been saying this a lot, but it is one of the best I've ever seen. It is top to bottom filled, having a lot of fun. So good fun, good fun. Homecoming dance, I checked in with Mr. Potabom today. Get these numbers. 1,750 to 1,800 students were at with the homecoming dance on. I giggle because that is like bigger than most of the high schools in Cincinnati or the
You should
area.
have seen the parking lot.
Oh my gosh, it was utter chaos.
So great number there. I have to tell you a quick story. I was at Home Depot on Saturday morning, and we're talking about getting some flooring, and we're working with Connie. And somehow West Clermont came up. She drove past this stadium on Friday night, and she was like, "I really wanted to stop in." I said, "Well, you should have." Come to find out, she's a 1970s graduate of Amelia High School. And I said, "Well, I have a medal for you." And she's like, "Oh my gosh, that'd be so great." So my wife had to go home. It took so long between all the things that we were doing. You know how those go sometimes. So my wife went to take one of our daughters to dance and came back with a medal. So Connie and I have a picture of her getting a medal. And she was tearing up. She had such a wonderful experience. She said she hasn't been back since 1970. I gave her an invitation to come back. We toured the high school with her. So it was really cool. These mean a lot to a lot of people here in the community. So awesome there. So thanks to Mr. Gephardt, Mr. Ryle, and the team for all the work they did to get that ready. And I forgot about the parade. Oh my gosh, that was an awesome parade. All of our elementaries were listed, or there. And then I love seeing those young folks, not only in the parade, but wanting all those bags of candy that they get that night. So, and then finally, just a reminder, our next town hall meeting is October 20th at WT at 7 o'clock. So, thank you.
Thank you. Treasurer's business?
Thank you. We have one action item this evening, but as I do that, and actually there's a PowerPoint that I thought was uploaded, but it is not, but I'm going to do that real quickly. Being conscious of time as we do this. There we go. I can do it with this. Got it. Thank you. So the annual appropriation measure is something that we have to do once a year. It is really our spending authority as we go through it. What I wanted to go through is just a few slides to give you that pattern that we have to go through to get to the spending authority. And if you'll recall, back in March, we adopted and accepted the rates as determined by the Budget Commission. In essence, what happens, the County Budget Commission, which is comprised of the county auditor, the county treasurer, and the county prosecutor, form that Budget Commission. What they do is they review the valuations, they review the rates, they then provide the calculation of what we get in taxes to the district, and the board back in March adopts those rates to go through with it. Second, we adopt then in June a temporary appropriation measure. That's our spending authority that basically says until you adopt a full appropriation measure, you can adopt 75% of what you believe you're going to be spending. That is so that you can start that year off. The second document that the district has to do is an official certificate, which that does is as we close our books on June 30th, we determine what our available balances are in each fund. We have to identify any open orders that are against the prior year's budget. Those automatically carry over and become appropriations for the next fiscal year. So anything that was open at the end of FY '22 or as of June 30th, that becomes initial budgeted items for this fiscal year. That's identified through that official certificate. We then amend that certificate in July, come back, and so as the county auditor or the county budget commission told us how much we get in taxes, we go back and say, okay, in those taxes plus other revenue that's coming into the district, here's our forecast of revenue that the district is going to be receiving. They in turn certify that back to us. That's the amended certificate. That then provides the platform for us to adopt an annual appropriation measure, which will be before you tonight. We need to do that by October 1st. So typically, again, we do a temporary in June to start our spending authority off. We do an annual in September to give us the full authority for the whole year. One of the new things that is, and I'm going to kind of skip right to it, those are the documents, and I'll send you this. One of the additional things that which we are doing as part of this appropriation measure is really establishing a position budget so that we can control that throughout the year. As you know, the major part of a school district budget is the personnel services. We are a people-intense organization, right? Teachers in the classroom, the support staff, the support, all those things that go on in the classroom. But because salaries and benefits make up, anywhere in any district, anywhere between 70 to 80% of the budget, the ability for us to control those costs is pretty important. So we've established that control within our system. Part of that appropriation measure is for the board to authorize the positions that we put in front of them, and then we monitor that monthly throughout the year to do that. Positions will not be added unless they come to the board first, and then we would add those positions to the position control. That'd be the authority to go higher to do that. As we've kind of gone through this in past years, we've had an FTE report that's gone to the board, and kind of what we discovered is not all the positions have been in there. Through the work of Mr. Foltz and his staff, with the Assistant Treasurer, Carolyn Jeffrey, and the Payroll Director, Kayla McAtee, they basically have been honing down on that whole position control. And so we've got some pretty good accuracy to that whole thing. As we go forward, we'll have reports to the board, just not on the positions, but how we're spending that by the different funds, in the general fund, the food service fund, the different state and federal funds to do that, okay, as we go forward. So as part of the appropriation measure, we want to make sure that this position, budget, and control is part of it, okay, not just the dollar amounts, but the positions that go along with it. That is pretty important to us. There's a line item that you will see in this listing, and the line item in there basically identifies positions that may come available that we may not fill. Primary reason for that is as our ESSER funding, okay, the $14 million over 3 different distributions to us, as that comes to a close in '24, which everybody's calling the cliff, we want to make sure that any people that we had funded through there that are continuous positions can come back into the general fund. So Mr. Foltz and the administrative staff had started looking at that now. We're not waiting till fiscal year '24. We're looking at those now, and where we can hold back positions, we are doing that. That helps us ensure that we don't have to rift people out because of that cliff. The main thing that we did, which started in the spring of '21, is as we did our Upward and Onward program, we made sure that if a position was added, that it was with dollars that were going to continue. That if there were investments that needed to be made, that they were really made out of the ESSER funds, okay? Because those were investments that were one-time only, and we knew that they wouldn't go on forever to do that. So that was pretty important, and the district has been following through with that as we go forward with it. I'll tell you the 2 areas that we've had the most additional staff. One is a little bit beyond our control, but as the special ed student needs come up, those staff does have to be added to that, and/or contracted services out. That area, as I think between the superintendent, Amy, Megan, and Ellie have told us, that is a growing area in the district for us. So staff has been added to those areas. The other areas that has been added is where, and we knew this was happening, and that's why we made allocations for it. As we started to invest dollars into our curriculum, we knew that some of those positions will be instructional coaches and such, and that it'd be great if we can continue that, but if not, that's why some of those positions are being held back, that we will we'll pull those people back into those positions as June of '24 comes around to do that, okay? So although the budget is for this fiscal year, it's also planning ahead on what can occur in '24, '25, and going forward with it. Keeping to the promise that we made the voters back in '20, there's really not a whole lot of extra in the budget, except what was added through the onward and upward, and/or so that we can make sure that we service the needs of different students that we have in this district. So, which brings me to item 7.01, the annual appropriation measure. The total appropriations for fiscal year '23 initially, and I'll make a statement about that, is $125,505,372. That's made up of a carryover of $2,985,000 and a fiscal year '23 budget of $122,520. That is all funds included within that, okay? As the board adopts this, we'll roll the projection for the general fund into that 5-year forecast, which is updated in November. So that'll be reflected in that document as we go forward. Again, we want that, the position control to be part of that, part of the annual appropriations as we move forward with that. So having said that, the recommendation is to approve the annual appropriation measure for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2023. Total appropriations of $125,505,372.
You've heard the motion, or you've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay, Mr. Chumley, a second.
Second.
Okay, Mrs. Delaney, any discussion? Okay, thank you. Mr. Romano?
Mr. Chumley.
Yes.
Mrs. Delaney.
Yes.
Mr. Patton.
Yes.
Mr. Rudy.
Yes.
4 yes. Thank you. And the only comment for the comment I have, just want to recognize Mr. Overby and the work that is being done, and the policy committee that's being done. I know there's a lot of policies there, but I, for one, over my 4, almost 5 decades of working in school districts, have found that, one of the primary roles of the board is to really adopt and develop policy. And it's a lot of work to that. And I know Mr. Overby and the administrative staff is putting a lot of work into it. When things come up, one of the first things that we look at is, well, what's our policy say? Because that's the direction that the board gives us to implement things. Sometimes what you don't see is there's not only policy, but beyond policy are the administrative guidelines, which is another whole set that basically says, if this is the policy, how are we going to implement things, which is there. So there's a lot of detail to that. There's a lot of changes. I think as the policy committee will see, is some of the dates on some of those policies go back more than 1 or 2 years, but just, compliments to addressing that and keeping those board policies up to date. That's really important. That's it.
Okay. Board business, board comments. Mr. Chumley?
It's been a fun night of celebration of our schools and teachers, but it's been like a weekend of celebration, honestly. Ended my work week last week with the parade, which was fun, which I was surprised it was like 3 times as big as last year, which was awesome. We had like a literal ton of candy in the back of that car, and it was gone in like halfway through. And then I walked home and my kids had just as much candy on the counter, so. Big win from our Bengals, so that was awesome. Looking for another big one Thursday. So yeah, it's been a good weekend.
Okay, Mr. Patton?
I too want to thank everybody that got their awards today. This is awesome.
the work that our elementary schools are doing and moving in that direction. The positive piece with our state report card, there is lots of things to celebrate. Again, as has been reported, we just need some work to do and just got to keep fine tuning that, keep moving in that direction. But we're definitely, appears to be in a good start or in a good direction. So keep moving in that direction. Mr. Overby did a great job tonight. But again, I commend everybody that's got the awards tonight.
Mrs. Delaney?
Kudos to all of our award winners. I encourage all of the younger, not as tenured staff, especially at WT, to tap into those amazing tenured staff members, because they're the wealth of knowledge, and when you put great minds together, more great information comes out. Friday night was amazing, to say the least. Thank you to Mr. Gebhardt and Mr. Collins and everybody that played a part in organizing that. I graduated from a district that is a neighbor of ours, and I can tell you that I have more passion and love for this district. I have history with this district. My grandmother graduated in 1940 from Amelia High School. All of my aunts and uncles, my mom graduated in 64, my son from Glen Estee in 17, and my daughter from West Clermont. So it was so amazing to be a part of that coming together of everything. I mean, 5 years ago, if you would have said that we would have had that turnout, I was expecting fist fights, because the blue and the purple never die, but it was amazing. Everyone was so excited. Mr. Collins was telling me at the girls' soccer senior night that the football gate was bigger than what it was the first football game of 2017. So record attendance at the football game Friday night. So that was amazing. Homecoming dance, I heard, was amazing. Minimal disruption with 1,800 kids there. If you haven't come to a town hall, please come to a town hall. It's amazing. That's the word for tonight. That's the key word. Last Thursday, I almost skipped the town hall. I wasn't feeling great. I was having a rough work day. I hauled myself over to the high school and left there a completely different person. And you just keep seeing the energy coming from different people. We have several people that continue to come to each town hall, but then there's new energy coming in, and tons of great feedback and tons of learning. So I just really encourage you, if you haven't made it, especially our community members, there's a lot going on that everyone is missing out on. So please come and share it with us. And finally, to the DLT and Mr. Romano for your guidance and for keeping our fiscal vision, keeping on the radar on, and so that we can be truthful to our voters, and making sure that that we're doing what we're doing and spending our dollars wisely. So thanks, everybody.
Okay. I'll join in, and I like the celebration. That was very, very nice. And Mrs. Preston made my day with that report card explanation. Wonderful. I'm very glad to hear it. Thank you for all your hard work with your team members. And everybody practically in the district has worked on that. So that's great news. Thank you. Okay, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Mr. Chumley, a second.
I'll second it.
Mr. Patton, discussion. Mr. Romano?
Mr. Chumley?
Yes.
Mr. Patton?
Yes.
Mr. Rudy?
Yes.
Mrs. Delaney?
Yes.
4 yes to adjourn.
Our next meeting is October 10th.
12.
12th. Wednesday.
It's a Wednesday.
Okay.
Move it to the Wednesday.